in working alongside different people and learning to work with others in different work environments can often be very trying. Being sure that you're communicating effectively with your coworkers can be a challenge sometimes, especially if you don't know them well, or you're just getting to know them, or you're just starting off at a place. You might not have worked there long, or you might not have been in that job field very long, and sometimes that can create barriers between people, and can lead to miscommunications. In these situations, it's really best to make sure that you are putting yourself out there and being willing to be a team player and being willing to help out, even in ways that you may not think that they might even need you. Just offering your help, offering your advice can really impact how they look at you and how they think about you as well. Communication alongside coworkers is something that's really important in dentistry, but also important just in your everyday life, in your everyday job, whatever it is that you may be doing. For example, I work at CVS. I know that communication with my coworkers is something that's extremely important because each shift, whenever we come in, you will talk to the manager that worked before you, and then the cashier that might have worked with them, to figure out what's been going on throughout the day before you got there, and you can ask them what's been done. I know at CVS, there's obviously a list of things, that we do, particularly just in a retail setting, which differs though from the front store and the pharmacy. So if I'm coming in for a shift in the front store, I'll need to ask one of the other managers, what's been done so far, what do you still need me to do this evening, what's my goal basically for the night. Or vice versa, if I'm working the morning shift and another supervisor comes in, say at 3 o'clock to relieve me, then they're going to ask me, hey Katie, what's been done? Say, has this been counted? Or, have we did cycle counts? Have we did quick pick? Those are just some terms, that we use that deal with inventory procedures. But, things like that. Or, what's been going on with this? Or have you guys been busy? Has there been trouble with anybody? Sometimes you'll come in and there will have been if there was an altercation where somebody tried to steal something, then you're coming into it and you're trying to figure out, what happened. Tell me what this person looks like, who they were with, so that I can be on the lookout. Without communication between your coworkers, there's no way that I would be able to know that information. So being sure that you're communicating effectively would be like asking the right questions, but also using your listening skills and actively listening to what the other person is having to say as well. Something that differs also, just like I said before, is in coming into a shift in the pharmacy or in the front store. So if I'm coming into a shift in the pharmacy, I'm a supervisor RX, which means I'm a supervisor for the pharmacy as well if they need me. But typically the pharmacist is the pharmacy manager on duty. But so if I'm coming into a shift back there, they may ask me to be on QP, which is peak production, or they may be asking me to just be on drive-through or just be on pickup. It basically just depends, but either way, I'm gonna need to ask and make sure that I'm doing my part and make sure that I'm doing my job efficiently. In the pharmacy, communication is so important, mainly because you're dealing with people's medications. So if you have someone pull up and it says that this medication is in a certain part of production, well, if you don't know what that abbreviation means, you need to ask someone. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's always better to ask than to pretend like you know, but you really don't know, because that can lead to miscommunications. It can lead to errors. And I know at CVS, errors are something that they really try to steer away from, especially in the pharmaceutical industry, just because that can lead to so many lawsuits, which also draws back into dentistry as well. Because say that you're working in a dental office and you're the new assistant, and say that they use a computer software that you're not really familiar with, but you're needing to put a note in for a patient, or you're needing to edit their medical history. Well, if you don't know how to use it and you're not willing to ask how to use it, there's no way that you're going to be able to efficiently do your job. I know, for example, just being out in my clinical site, I know at school we've used EagleSoft a bit, but not very much yet. And so for me, I'll be asking questions about, how do you get back to the chart? Where can I go to look at their x-rays? Where do you go to find out more about the appointment? And then as far as like setting up a procedure, well, you need to be able to know how to look back at a patient's chart in order to know what they did last time. And that can affect what materials you're going to need out for this procedure, which is something that I've also come to learn from my clinical site as well. As far as communicating and effectively working through conflicts with coworkers, which is part of this chapter as well, I would say the biggest thing that I have found is to maintain a positive attitude, even whenever you may feel like, the other person is not in the best position. Maybe the information that they told you was wrong, and, maybe you were right, but it's not something that you have to verbally say. Sometimes it's better to just do your part and apologize than it is to draw out the conflict and cause more drama, especially in a workplace. I myself haven't had work conflict really. I've seen others just throughout my time at CVS have conflict in the workforce area, just because when things get busy and tensions get high, sometimes people lose their patience, they lose their temper, or they just don't know how to respond to people. For example, working in the pharmacy recently, there's a tech who, she is good at her job, she means so well, but sometimes she gets off track very easily, and people have to try to put her back on track. She was asking another tech about a medication, and she kept saying the patient's name, and the other tech asked for the medication that was being pulled. And she totally gets off track, and the other tech just kind of snaps. And so I just politely stepped in and was like, "Hey Tessa, I'll find it for Stephanie. You just go ahead and help the customer at the front." And sometimes that's what it takes. And of course, after, Tessa did apologize to her and was like, "I'm sorry if you thought that I snapped at you." And that's another important thing too. Apologize whenever you feel that you might have went overboard or you might have stepped a bit far. Just apologize and make things right, because these are people that you're going to need to work with, and you need to be able to be part of the team and efficiently communicate with them and be willing to work with them and work through your differences. So mainly overall, just communicating with your coworkers is something that is extremely important, and especially if there's a conflict in the way, it is so important to just work through that And apologize when you feel it's necessary. And just apologize just to be able to work through the conflict so that you can just work more efficiently and get the job done, which is the main goal.